Are you ready?
I'm ready. Before we move on to the next call, though, we still have plenty of open lines. So if anybody else wants to call, has a topic, or anything like that, the number is still here, 1-512-686-0279. And
There it is.
yeah, you got it. Okay.
I did the thing I said I wasn't going to do that all the other hosts do, where I confused.
You got to do the Vanna White, right? We are moving on to Hamish. You are live on the air with Eric and Jamie. How are you doing today, sir?
Good evening. Well,
Good morning.
I am deeply troubled by the atheists, as usual.
As usual.
I have compiled evidence to destroy the atheist position that you put forth last time.
To be clear, which position that Eric and I were talking about last time? Because
empathy is a good basis for morality.
that empathy.
So
That's not really what. Well,
yeah, no. I mean, if you have a hammer in your tool set, you have a shitty tool set, right? It's not that the hammer is a bad tool; it's that you need more than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Empathy is a hammer.
Yeah, empathy is a tool that we use to help structure our society, and that we refer to because it's important when we're talking about morals and ethics. So I remember last week, if I'm correct, you were saying that empathy is highly flawed, right?
It is
I don't want to put words in your mouth, and you were saying because empathy is highly flawed, it should not be used.
Yes, well, Paul Bloom, a researcher from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, published a study about a dying child. People were exposed to a recording of this child talking about how miserable her life was. And then half of them were told to take an objective perspective, and half of them were told to empathize with the child. The half that were told to empathize decided to move the child up in the emergency hierarchy, above children who had more dire conditions. Which is irrational.
Okay.
Do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hamish, I want to walk you through this, okay? When it comes to morality, being an atheist doesn't mean that we all subscribe to the same anything other than the one position on atheism.
Not necessarily. However, you presented that your morality comes largely from empathy.
So I
think the point was that Eric was trying to make is he said the atheist position.
Yeah,
it's not.
And so you're talking to us, and you can get our position.
That's true. This is true.
Okay, so I just want to kind of like...
Atheists do not necessarily have to base their morality on empathy.
Atheists don't necessarily have to go into that conversation at all. Go into that conversation at all.
Exactly. So, atheists do not need to have morality. Exactly.
That's... okay.
Come on, Hamish. That's a low blow, and that's not true. Come on, let's keep it at least a little bit of
no more or less than anyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so, hold on. So atheists do necessarily require morality.
So it's not even that. It's that we are moral creatures. Whether or not we choose to ascribe it to a god, or say that we need to look at a 2,000-year-old book written by Bronze-aged. It's just wild to say that you choose to have morality. The fact is
I never said that.
Okay, you implied that heavily. You said atheists don't need to have morality.
I said atheists do not necessarily require morality.
Yeah, we all have it. We all have it. Now we get to talk about why we have it, right?
Hold on, morality is not a necessary prerequisite for atheism, because atheism is merely the rejection of theistic claims.
This is true. So
I was correct.
The same can be said of Christians, because in general, the thing that unites Christians is a belief that Jesus Christ died on a cross for your sins, which says nothing about what moral system you would ascribe to.
I mean, the same can also be said about literally anything other than people who are ethicists, right? People who
Gingers.
bake cakes. Yeah,
Well,
just
was a low blow.
I mean,
But actually, what I said was accurate.
Yes, but pejoratively stated.
okay, go on.
Okay, thank you. So the people who decided to empathize, they would move the child up in the list, the waiting list, past other children who were viewed as higher priority.
Mm-hmm.
Also, places like the Make-A-Wish Foundation will spend thousands to allow one child to meet Batman while other children die. This is because of the spotlight effect of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to empathize with individuals and ignore the broader social implications.
So, like I said earlier, empathy is one tool in the toolbox. What are you like? What's your goal here? I mean, I don't know what you're getting at.
No basis for morality.
You're showing that empathy is no basis for morality?
Atheists have no basis for morality.
He's trying to show that atheists have no basis for morality. Are you?
Please, Jamie.
Let me jump in here.
Yeah.
So, to be clear, this would be step one in doing that, right? Because we've agreed that...
Yes, because you said that your morality largely stems from empathy. Whereas empathy is a tool of prejudice.
Okay, so
Empathy favors the in-group, according to studies such as those done by Paul Bloom.
All right, to be clear, let me just get to the point of something that I was trying to get to last week as well.
Very well.
Yeah. What is the criteria by which you're basing a good moral system? Because what I was trying to get to last week when I was asking, yes, but in a moral system with God, this, that, and the other, and I'm trying to figure out how would you determine whether or not empathy was a good moral character if you don't have a measuring stick to measure it against?
How well does it align with the will of the Lord?
Okay, well, as best I can tell, nothing except for the will of the Lord the will of the Lord would align well with the will of the Lord.
Yes.
So wouldn't anything be a bad moral system except for that?
Exactly.
All right, would you have a way of grading other moral systems as more unaligned with the will of the Lord or less unaligned with the will of the Lord?
The closer they adhere to the word of God, the better.
Okay. So
all of mankind falls short.
Well, I mean, we're talking about moral systems, but sure, humans have moral failings. So to be clear, you've
all
called in...
humans have moral failings.
Yes. To be clear, we're on, the second week of talking about empathy as a tool to be used in understanding that other human beings are like ourselves, right? Is that not something that is in line with what you would perceive as the will of the Lord?
To an extent, however, empathy favors one's own tribe.
Yeah, this was all tread over last week.
Yeah, well, we're going to retread ground.
Yeah.
Allow me to challenge the atheists, if I may.
No, you can challenge after I ask you a question in return, and then you can go.
And then challenge.
Yeah. So the question that I had is the same that I had last week that you deflected. So I'd like to get back to it, and that is, how does your your basis for morality, how does your basis fundamentally change your decision? So we were talking specifically about
My daughter
500 people dying versus, your daughter, or the train track decision. How would you make a different moral judgment, right, than us, and why would you make it that way? Because otherwise, we're just.
I've thought about this. I considered it.
Okay, good.
However, I would like to say I did not deflect last week.
Oh yeah, you did. You can go back and check the video, but that's fine.
No,
We're here.
I didn't deflect. I told you that I would need time to think about it.
Did he?
That is not the same as deflection.
I don't have the video in my head.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll leave that to people to talk about in the comments. So you had time to reflect. Let's hear what you came up with.
So you asked me how my moral decision-making would differ from yours.
Yes.
Would you please present yours so that I may contrast my own?
To be clear, you said you'd had time to think about it. Are you prepared now to talk about how your moral system would differ from ours?
Yeah, I mean...
Yes, but I would need to know your moral system to tell you how mine differs.
So what did you think about over the last week as far as your moral system differing from ours that prepared you?
Well,
Wouldn't you need
I
to...
would pray.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I would pray.
Okay. But you've prayed over the last week, presumably.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Lord told me that if I were in that situation, I would have to pray, and then he would reveal the answer.
Okay.
Aren't there people who...
He knows more than we do.
True. Okay, so...
True. You acknowledge that the Lord knows more than we do.
No.
Jamie.
That
Say
just...
true.
My sweet
Okay.
child.
All atheists admitting there is a law.
Sure. In a world where the God that you believe in exists, then the God that you believe in would have the attributes that you believe that the God that you have has. However,
Yes.
can you acknowledge that when two people kneel and pray next to the tracks in the trolley problem, they could come up with opposite solutions?
Potentially.
So,
Yes. So how reliable is a system of morals where people pray?
and how effective is your God that he would give that differing of a response to people, or that people would walk away from that different of a conclusion, right? I mean, does that say that, would that say that if your God doesn't care enough that he wouldn't answer, or that he's ineffective enough that he would give a poor response so that people would walk away with it with different results?
The different situations depend on the specifics.
Okay, now in this specific situation we talked,
Yeah.
Jamie just
Well,
brought
I mean,
up
but
two people.
What he's talking about is the application of a method. So if the application of a moral system can result in very different conclusions. For example, many people find same-sex marriage to be in accordance with the will of the Lord, and many people find it in opposition to the will of the Lord. Presumably, whether or not two people can be married would be an important decision to the God that you believe in.
I have an answer.
Okay. But do you understand how the method that you've said that you would use to come to that answer has been used by millions of people, and they've gotten violently different answers?
If I were in a situation where I personally had to make the decision about which of the two groups of people to kill, the Lord would provide me with the answer, I hope and believe.
So the moral system that you're proposing, is it functional only for you, or is it functional for all human beings?
It is functional for those who truly believe.
Okay. Are there human beings besides you that truly believe?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So would you be able to tell those human beings based on the fact that when they prayed, they would come up with precisely the same answers that you would about all of the questions you would pray about? That is, they would agree with you about everything that they asked the Lord to give an answer to.
Sometimes the Lord answers some and not others. I believe that he would prefer to answer me if I were actually in the situation described.
So there would be a time where you would receive no answer, where some people would receive no answer to their prayers, as far as, is it okay for same-sex couples to get married? Okay.
Yeah,
so are there situations where people would come to the wrong conclusion? Or rather, the wrong conclusion, whichever side of this issue you're on?
Well, first of all, I believe you changed it to gay marriage when I was addressing the
trolley problem. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think...
Sure. I switched it to something that's much more clear-cut as far as there being a yes or a no, right?
Yeah. The trolley problem is the trolley problem because
it's
change the number of people and you have to...
It's a thought experiment to examine the strengths and weaknesses of various different components of a complicated moral system. And since the moral system that you're proposing is not one that has a variety of a set of values that you would want to weigh and judge and have much more intricate debates about, because as best I can tell, the moral system that you're proposing is pray to God and obey.
Some people pray to the wrong God.
Okay, but is praying to Jesus Christ, in your mind, praying to the correct God?
If you pray correctly to the correct Jesus Christ, then yes.
There's more than one Jesus?
Yeah.
I guess in Revelations there's sword-mouthed Jesus and...
The Muslims have a different interpretation of Jesus.
Well, they're praying to the God of Abraham, and they don't...
But is that like a phone number where another person's going to pick up?
Yeah, they believe that he's a prophet, but not God, so they're not really praying to him. But yes, they have a different interpretation of Jesus. So my question is, like a Lutheran and a Baptist are both praying. Presumably, at least one of them is praying to the wrong Jesus.
So, actually, take a look at the notes that we got.
Here
before we move on I do have a quick question for you, and then we're actually going to try something new. The question that I have for you is: you pray to God, you make your moral judgment, and let's say hypothetically it turns out to be horrendous. Are you responsible for your moral judgment if you prayed on it and God told you to? Or are you giving all responsibility for that moral judgment to your God? I mean, what I'm wondering about is, I don't want you to think I'm catching you, what I'm wondering is if you have any culpability for your actions, if you are saying that your God is giving you all of the responses, right? Like, are you
morally responsible for the results of your actions?
Yeah.
If you were given orders by God to whatever. Actually, it's not just you, if anyone, because moral systems presumably are things that should be applied universally for all humans, right? So if you were instructed to do something that would generally, in modern society, be considered an abomination or what have you, do you think that other human beings, upon hearing you say, oh no, God told me to do this, should back off? Is that what you were trying to get at?
Yeah, no, you fleshed that out pretty well. And then, Hamish, after you answer, we are going to try something new. So I just kind of want to help structure the conversation.
We're going to pull in another caller to join this.
So I want to give you the chance to respond, Hamish.
Some people believe that they are speaking to the Lord when actually they are merely communicating with their own psychological spooks.
I totally agree.
Yep, that is a statement that I believe is true.
And that's the one that I actually believe that you're doing, and everybody else who goes through that, because there's no way to tell the difference. And because there's no way to objectively be able to determine what the difference is, I can
read the
pretty
Bible.
easily. That doesn't actually get you out of what we're talking about.
It doesn't, because there are people that pray in Arabic.
Yeah,
and that have a very different interpretation of which sacred text there should be. Also, the silver sword is entirely different.
Oh, I love it. See, call back to first episode, we were talking about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, here, let him give a
a
brief response, and then Hamish, stay on the line, because we're going to pull in a second caller to join this conversation.
Who is this mystery caller, may I ask?
Let's introduce the mystery caller.
Okay.
Right.
So we are. Be patient with us. We're going to try this at the same time.
Have you been told which buttons to press?
I believe it is. Oh no! Did I drop
Janet's
him?
on. Oh, what did you do?
No.
Why didn't
Janet,
you listen?
are you there?
Put Janet on hold first.
Okay,
All
I'm putting you on hold. I dropped Hamish.
On the hold. Oh Lord.
It is all my fault.
This is a professional. Okay.
Okay.
Put the
We'll put you on hold. We'll be right back.
I think this other call is probably Hamish calling back. Is it Hamish?
If it's Hamish, that is a really quick callback.
If it's not,
press on air 2 times.
Yay!
Okay.
All right. And
Hamish,
then
you there?
Hello.
Oh, thank you for calling.
All right. Thank you.
You want to do the thing? You do the thing.
Yeah. To be clear, Mark, I press on air under the line for Janet twice. Or not? Answer me, Mark.
We are praying to you, Mark. Please.
Don't. To lock the call. Okay, so press this one twice.
Okay.
And then that one. And it
we
dropped him again. Hey, Janet.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Okay. We're going to do this again.
I'm good. How are you doing?
And if not, we might have to try this.
Okay. Press it a second time, and then Hamish as well. Hello, Hamish?
Are we all on?
Indeed.
Yay! All right,
Janet, are you
Hamish and Janet, you are both on the air.
Hello.
All right. So we're going to actually make really, really great...
Moderators now.
Yeah. No, it's going to be super interesting to watch us on YouTube because Jamie and I are just going to shut up for a second. Janet, what did you want to tell Hamish?
Yeah.
First of all, I wanted to address his trolley situation. But before, actually, I want to address something he said last week. He said that our morality and our we would save a child from a well.
Janet, you're coming through kind of rough right now. Are we on speakerphone or something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
It's probably just my connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it better now, or?
It's a little bit, but I would say speak clearly and loudly into the microphone, and Vern will work audio magic.
Hopefully.
I'll try. Something Hamish said last week was that the problem with morality for atheists is we would focus on a child in a well as opposed to, say, the starving children in Africa. And the problem with that argument is that it's much easier to focus on a problem of one that can be solved as opposed to a problem of many that is much harder to fix. So it's not a question of our morality is the question, it's a question of what can we do? What can we fix? And what positivity can we enforce in the world? It's not that we care less about the children in Africa, it's that we can fix this one problem.
Hamish, you can respond.
Mm-hmm.
An equal amount of money can do more good for certain individuals in Africa than for the one girl in the well.
That's true, but I think part of the point that Janet is making is that it's much more difficult to set up the logistics to get donations in Austin, Texas to, somewhere in Kitwe, Uganda.
Somebody like Peter Singer has set up websites where you can find out the most effective charities.
Oh, Janet, we lost
Is your connection still there, Janet?
Yeah. We yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
The Lord has struck her down.
I find that unlikely.
Hamish, I love you so much. Oh, you're
connection
just a
with
beautiful
this
human being, Hamish.
Right. Although to address that, to be clear, are you sure that it's? Sorry, please.
Okay, we have other callers. Hamish, that was I want to go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to ask him how he could tell that it wasn't just a regular old technical problem.
No, I want him to have this moment because that is fucking terrible of you, Hamish. What the hell? Like, really? I mean, you don't even go for low-hanging fruit. You just.
To be clear, were you trying to say that she was struck dead or that her phone line was struck dead?
Her connection was struck down by the Lord as I struck down her argument.
Oh, man. Now you just need to turn all of those powers into actually helping those 500 people in Africa. If you can figure that out, definitely give us a call back. We hope to hear from you next week.
To be clear, what does that mean about all the arguments you've made against us, given that we're still going on the air?
Ooh, yeah, if you can shut us down.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Oh, give me some of those mysterious ways, man. Let's see it.
All right, Hamish.
Get that juju. All right.
So we've had a few times on the call, or rather, we've spent a good amount of time on the call. I think we have your email, and I think you have ours as well.
Yes.
If you want to communicate now, in between now and next week, are you going to be able to call back again next week, or are interested in?
Permitting, yes.
All right.
Permitting. Janet, definitely let's continue this next week. We only have 10 scheduled minutes, and we want to get to a couple other people.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So take care, Hamish, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
God bless.
Yeah, right. What a tool. I love it. I love it.
And not the hammer of empathy. That is not the tool that he was using right there.
Hamish, that's fantastic.
Go
so
ask
we
God
actually
for
have
permission so that he'll permit you to call back in, please.